daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here for the Locked On Big 12 podcast. Today it is September 13th, 2021, and we have a weekend of football to get to. But first, a few pieces of admin here, as they call it. Number one, if you guys are listening in the audio version, you can find us on YouTube, subscribe, with thumbs up, and leave comments. I really love it when you guys comment. It gives me ideas. It helps me interact with you guys. It's been a lot of fun so far seeing your all's reactions to these videos. So please go ahead and comment. Let us know what you think, and it gives me ideas for the show. So I'll reference you all when you guys bring that stuff up. If you're watching, make sure you follow us on the Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, iTunes. So if you can't watch the videos, you can just go ahead and listen to the podcast. That way, if you're in transit, wherever you're heading to the games this weekend, whatever it is, so go ahead and do that. Follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. We tweet out all the shows, audiograms, things like that from there. All right, on today's show, we're going to go through all these week 2 games. Couple notes, the 3 games that I want you guys to go elsewhere to hear about, and I'll talk about them some. But Sooners, Pokes, and TCU. Locked on Sooners, John Williams. Locked on Pokes, Linda Godfrey. And then Steven Simcox does Locked on Horned Frogs. They all have breakdowns much more in-depth than the ones that I'm going to do today about those 3 games this weekend. So make sure you guys go check them out. All right, let's get to the games from this weekend. We'll go in order of importance. First game we got to talk about, and this brings me no joy here. Iowa 27, Iowa State 17. It wasn't really this close. And the big difference in this game is that off of Iowa State turnovers, Iowa scored 20 of their 27 points. Brock Purdy played a horrible game, and in their first offensive drive, they had a chance to score. They came up short and just got a field goal, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier in the week, where it was like they need to punch and punch hard early on, and they were never really able to do that. Brock Purdy's first pick resulted in a touchdown the other way, and then they had a great response before the half, a really great touchdown drive, made it 14-10, which felt like it was game on at that point. But Breece Hall in the second half fumbles inside the 5-yard line, turns into a touchdown. Xavier Hutchinson has a ball that tips off of his hands. It's interception. I didn't think that one was Brock Purdy's fault. That one turns into a field goal. Brock Purdy, pick, interception that turns into a field goal. So they had, in first half, not to mention it too, the interception that Brock Purdy had turned into a touchdown as well. The numbers in this game, Iowa was pretty awful on offense. They end up running 31 sacks, 31 rushes for 91 yards. So Iowa State did a really good job on the defensive end of things, I thought, in this game. There really was one touchdown drive that kind of smoked them down the field. But Iowa was in a good position all game long to do damage to Iowa State, and it was because of those turnovers. And look, the thing about it is that sometimes there's just Brock Purdy to blame, and in this game there was not. There was just it's everybody. The Hutchinson tip was not Purdy's fault. You had the Breece Hall, the fumble inside the 5. Once again, there was that. So Brock gets benched. They bring Deckers in. They've got some decisions to make this week. I know Hunter Deckers looked good, but it was kind of in not mop-up duty. But that game, it felt like it was a bit out of reach at that point. And everybody is to blame on this one, especially on the offensive side. Spencer Petras had a couple big throws, but he was 11 for 21 for 106 yards in 1 score. So it wasn't like Spencer Petras played this lights-out game. Goodson on the ground, 21 carries, 55 yards, not very good. But this Iowa defense, which showed their ability to be resourceful last week, did the job again. Their linebacking core is forcing fumbles, guys up front tipping passes. Secondary, they got some sure-handed dudes at the back of that secondary. So I thought this was sometimes football, and I'm somebody that didn't play it even at the high school level. But sometimes football does boil down to some simpler things. And this, I think this one obviously was just the ability to take advantage of mistakes. And Iowa's done that week 1. They do that in week 2. And it's kind of their MO. It's kind of Kirk Ferentz's MO is that, look, this team is not really strong at quarterback. They've got a decent running game, but their defense is their strength. And Kirk Herbstreit was saying it the whole game. Make them beat you. Make them beat, they're going to make them beat you. And You have to beat them, I guess you should say. They didn't. Iowa State could not. And this was a game that felt like they needed to do it. They could have done it. I know they ended up getting thumped in this game, but they could have taken care of business in this game. They could have made this game at least close because that Iowa offense was not good. But when you put an offense that's decent in those positions enough times, they're going to eventually make things happen, and they did. So Iowa State's got to hit the reset button. Obviously, I know it's a huge disappointment for them now. They're at 1-1, but they're on the road against a bad UNLV team. They go on the road against Baylor. They have KU at home at Kansas State. So they have a run here where they could do they could make some things happen. So I don't think it's they're in a horrible spot, but their performances from their best players necessitated that loss. Their best guys did not step up in games where they needed to. In this game especially, they needed to. So that's what sets them back. Iowa, great performance from them. Once again, on the road, they just capitalized off mistakes. That's what you should do on the road. It was almost like the road team was Iowa State. It was almost like the pressure was on Iowa State. And it was because Iowa State's got so much expectation this year. And for Iowa, it's kind of ho-hum. It's kind of what Iowa always is. And Iowa rose to the occasion. Iowa State did not. And that's the story here. Arkansas 40, Texas 21. Now, this game, last week I took some heat for the way I said that I thought UL was going to win that game. This version of Texas was the version I thought potentially we could see. Now, Arkansas did a phenomenal job, but there were plenty of opportunities for Texas to get back into this game, and they could not because Arkansas was methodically scoring. They were forcing turnovers. They blocked a punt, but a lot of the time they ended up kind of getting stopped short. We had times this game where it was 16-0. It was 23-7. And so it felt like Arkansas could have potentially ran and hide with this game, but they did not. And the offense for Texas kind of looked like the offense that I thought we might see. Hudson Card struggled immensely. I thought Arkansas was really tough up front. They were creating problems. Card goes 8 for 15 for 61. Thompson not much better, 5 for 8 for 57. Those guys both had rough games. Bijan Robinson was okay. 19 carries, 69 yards for a touchdown. It's tough to hold him down. But early in the game, Card misses Jordan Whittington. I know it was on the run. It was a tough throw to make on 3rd and 15, but he gets Whittington turned around. He can't haul it in, and that was kind of a missed opportunity there. Dicker misses the field goal, but it was 52 yards, so it was a tough one to make. Obviously, mishandled snap, a block punt there, puts them in a bad spot. BJ Foster for Texas had a ridiculous interception where he tipped it to himself in this game, and it felt like that could have been a turning point, but this was kind of a methodical beating. It was 16-0, like I mentioned, 16-7, then 23-7, 26-7, 33-7, and at the end of the game, we saw a little bit of life from Texas. They outscored Arkansas 14-7 in the final quarter, but still the game was out of reach. A Casey Thompson 2-yard touchdown run made it 40-21 as opposed to 40-14. Texas has a whole lot to clean up, but this is once again, I've had this position all off season. If you're just joining us now, you're new to the shows. I've been pretty consistent saying this thing with Sarkisian is going to take some time. Sure, they've got a lot of talent now. Texas always does. They still have a talented roster. But once again, these are not two quarterbacks that were handpicked by Steve Sarkisian. Hudson Card's first road start as a true freshman did not go according to plan. All of these things, it's okay. Like it's actually okay that it happens like this. This is a great learning and growing experience. To the Arkansas side of things, they ran and ran and ran and ran the football. 47 carries for 334 and 4 scores in this game. And that's including, I'm not sure if Texas ended up getting any, they actually didn't get any sacks in this game. They were not able to generate any pressure in this game despite getting 7 tackles for loss. But that was the story is that Arkansas was able to control the game, control the offense. And I thought because they controlled it like that, it did put more pressure on Texas when they did get the football to try and make something happen, to try and score. At the time, possession ends up pretty even, but it felt like Arkansas was controlling most of this game. KJ Jefferson is a big dude. He was effective, especially in the running game. And they had a bunch of guys, Jefferson, Treylon, Smith, Green, Sanders. Those guys all got in. 4 different hogs find the end zone on the ground. And that was the big story in this game, is that they were able to control possession, control the clock, maintain. And I thought at times they were a bit tougher than Texas was up front. I don't think it's a bad thing to say at all. Texas got some key stops. The offense was not able to generate anything and get things going in the right direction early on in this game. I think that's why you saw the result that you did. But there is still, Texas has played a really difficult stretch here. I thought a split of those first two games would be really positive for Steve Sarkisian, who's starting off, as a new head coach there. I know the 38-18 results got them feeling pretty high, but this 40-21 brings them back down to earth. They've got Rice and then Texas Tech up next, where they have a really difficult stretch. They've got at TCU, Oklahoma, and Red River, and then Oklahoma State as well, at Baylor and at Iowa State. So, before the season, I was kind of on their under for their win total. I thought it was going to be, it's around, I think it's like 7.5. I like the under there, or I think it was 8 actually. I like the under of it being in that situation, because once again, if it hits that 8 number, you're good to go. I don't think they get to 9 wins. I really don't. And look at the rest of the schedule. Texas Tech, if they can pull off these next two and be 3-1, I think they drop one of Texas Tech and TCU. I think they'll drop one of Oklahoma State, or Oklahoma. There's a chance they could drop both. And at that point, they're already at 3 losses, with at Baylor, at Iowa State, Kansas, at West Virginia, and Kansas State coming up. They could easily drop 2 of those final games. So, look, I think it's going to be kind of fits and starts situation, or it could be one where, in that backstretch, like I just mentioned, Texas looks a lot better towards the back part of the year. We just have to see where they're going to be. But once again, this is a good reminder that this is a little bit of not a total rebuild, but Steve Sarkisian's in his first year. Really just never get your expectations too high, because he's got time to build. We saw what a strong result, especially when Texas has a bit more athleticism, a bit more talent, but Arkansas is a bit more of a level playing field. I mentioned this coming in. Arkansas, when you compare them to ULL, they're not as good of a team, but they do have some better athletes on the team, and they do have some better, talent per se. So that was a bit of an equalizing factor, I think, in this game. All things were a bit more equal on that front, and the execution edge definitely went to Arkansas in this one. All right, we're going to go on to our next game, but first we have a word from our sponsors coming up here. New sponsors here at the Locked On Big 12 podcast, our friends over at Prize Picks. This is pretty cool, guys. They've got, I'm going to start using these too on the podcast. They basically have player props, right? It's daily fantasy made really easy. It offers every sport: NFL, college football, NBA, college hoops, MLB, soccer, MMA, and more. Prize Picks offers college football player props. And they've got more than anybody else in the world. They offer you really any prop you can think of: yards, touchdowns, interceptions thrown. That's always a fun one when you look at these. So you can go there today. Prize Picks, it's available in most states right now. So you can go to their App Store, Google Play. It allows you to get the app. They've got videos that show you how to get things done. And also, they've got some offers coming in, or some offers for our listeners coming up here soon, that we'll be able to tell you guys about pretty soon. So Prize Picks, it's daily fantasy made easy. All right, one of those games where I told you guys, go to Locked On Horned Frogs if you want to hear more. TCU 34, Cal 32. My notes, I just say, I don't know what happened. These two teams hang their hats on defense, and a shootout broke out in this game. The thing that stood out the most to me was Quentin Johnston is a dude. He can make plays deep, intermediate passing game. I talked about this all off season. I talked about this Steve Simcox, talked about it myself in the show. That intermediate passing game for TCU needs to be established as they move forward. They've got to get that going, but they did a better job in this game. Zach Evans looked phenomenal. 22 carries, 190, and a touchdown. Max Duggan, 19 carries, 71 yards, and a score. Duggan was 17 for 31, 234, 3 scores, and a pick. And I've always said this about Max Duggan. The completion percentage is never really up there, but he can sling it downfield a little bit. I know people kind of mention it's almost like the vertical passing game is the issue. To me, it's the intermediate. To me, it's that middle of the road type stuff. And I thought he improved a little bit on that front, but TCU got punched in the mouth early in this game, did a great job responding. Chase Garbers looked really strong. And so with that, you kind of saw things play out where TCU was in an early hole, and they were able to climb their way out. This game at one point was Cal was up 6-0. They were able to take a 12-point lead, and then TCU began storming back and was able to take the lead in the second half. They were able to hold off Cal at the end. They were up 8 points. Cal scored a touchdown, did not get the 2-point conversion. TCU, their defense finally shows up and gets a stop. 34-32 final. Gary Patterson's team is 2-0. And I mentioned this earlier. I mentioned this all offseason. If they could get to 2-0. That's a great place for them to be. This was a game that I had circled to say, hey, look, that's a really good defense. Can your offense score? Now, they've got some stuff to clean up on the defensive side, and we'll see that maybe on display next week. But TCU, huge result for them to be able to pull ahead. Oklahoma State 28, Tulsa 23, another one of those. Head over to the Locked On Pokes podcast for more analysis on this one specifically. But this was an absolute crawl for the Oklahoma State offense. The big key here, Spencer Sanders, I'm not sure how many more times we have to say he's got to get better. And here's the thing. If they had a better option, they would roll with one. If they had a quarterback, Shane Illingworth, who is better than Sanders and give a better chance to win, I think he would be out here. I think we've seen enough from Spencer Sanders to know that, look, he's been so inconsistent throughout his career. He threw a pick six that was absolutely dreadful in this game. A horrible, horrible pick six that Spencer Sanders threw. Had some good moments. They were able to spread the ball and get it downfield, but they're trying to find ways to get the ball moving down the field. And also, they took a bunch of wide receiver injuries in this game. They were banged up from a skill position standpoint, but they get the win. Not impressive. They're going to have to play so much better, especially next week when they go and play Boise. That Boise beat the hell out of UTEP, and they almost beat UCF the other night. So and also, I think Boise wants to probably make a statement and say, hey, look, you should have let us in the Big 12. But that's beside the point. The running game was kind of there in this game for Oklahoma State. Spencer Sanders was the most effective rusher that they had. I thought the defense did a pretty decent job in this game, all things considered. But they've got to be more consistent on offense. That's really the key for them moving forward. All right, one more word from our sponsors here before we keep rolling on. Today's show is brought to you by Sweatblock. Summer's still ending, guys. We still have a lot of heat in a lot of places, a lot of hot games this weekend. If you guys want to make sure you don't sweat as much, go check out Sweatblock wipes. Doctor created, doctor recommended. They work up to 7 days per use. They have a dry shirt guarantee. If Sweatblock doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. It's been featured and tested on the Rachel Ray Show by firefighters. It's a bestseller on Amazon for over the past 10 years. They got over 13,000 reviews, and they're manufactured in the good old U.S. of A. If someone you know or you yourself is dealing with this, you have to check out Sweatblock. Go get it today at sweatblock.com for 20% off. Use the promo code locked on. That's LOCKEDON locked on, or you can find it at Amazon or CVS. Also, today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting, best for you protein bar in the game today. Go to built.com. It's built.com. You will find coconut almond, cherry, raspberry, mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, all those flavors for those bars covered in chocolate, 17 to 18 grams of protein, only 130 calories, 4 to 5 grams of sugar as well. Once again, it's built.com. It's built.com. Promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15, LOCKED15 for 15% off today. All right, Kansas State 31, SIU 23. Look, this was dicey. Skylar Thompson gets the injury in this game. He leaves it, and it was, we saw Kansas State last year with Skylar Thompson. It's a huge mess. It's a complete mess. Now, the good news is it sounds like it's less serious than expected. He's expected to play before the season is over. They played Nevada on Saturday. K-State is at home, but Nevada is still favored because Vegas does not like the situation. I think they also probably like the quarterback too, Carson Strong for Nevada, a little bit better than they like the current Kansas State situation. But yeah, we saw it was a non-contact injury, kind of looked like a pop almost. Not really sure what happened there, but Deuce Vaughn had to carry the load for them in this game. It's a back and forth game. Will Howard came in, was 8 for 17, 76 yards and an interception. Deuce Vaughn, man, 26 carries. 123 scores on the ground. For a guy that big, or that little, I guess you could say, no offense to him, to carry that kind of load just shows you the kind of player that he is. Malik Knowles went over 100 yards receiving in this game. Look, SIU had the ball with a chance to score to win this game, and Kansas State got a stop. But that's kind of the spot that Kansas State was in. And they weren't the only team that was like that. Texas Tech 28, Stephen F. Austin 22. Eric Ezekama had a phenomenal touchdown grab and run early on in this game. The Texas Tech offense, they shut off, and they needed even more desperate stop I think it was a goal-to-go situation for Stephen F. Austin, and Texas Tech was able to get a stop there, but they were only up 6 points. They're only up 6, so Stephen F. Austin could have scored in this game and put this thing away. They were not able to do so, and Texas Tech hangs on for the win. So these two teams, Kansas State and Texas Tech, and Oklahoma State too, like that's kind of grouped together. Really underwhelming performances against non-Power 5 teams, those three teams. And look, Oklahoma State had a bad week 1 performance. Kansas State had a great one. Texas Tech had a first half that was awful, second half that was phenomenal. So mixed bag from all of them. All of them get wins. All of them get to 2-0, but it's a very shaky 2-0. We'll see what happens, especially with Skylar Thompson over there at Kansas State. All right, also we had Baylor 66, Texas Southern 67. They take care of business there. Same thing for West Virginia, 66-0. Oklahoma, poor Western Carolina was on the wrong side of a hellacious beating, an angry Lincoln Riley team that really made a point of also coming out in the second half of the game and playing really well too because of the performance last week in their second half. So they end up pounding poor Western Carolina. And in the last game, I forgot to put this one in because it was a Friday night game, but putting it in here now, it was Kansas. It was 49. There it is. It was Coastal Carolina 49, Kansas 22. Now, I had the Kansas Jayhawks plus 26.5 points. I also had them in teaser when I'm plus like 35, I think, at one point. Yeah, this one was. Look, they were competitive. They were within one score in the third quarter. So that's what I can say about that. They were right there. They were within striking distance in the third quarter. Then Coastal Carolina is a really strong team, getting everybody back, put their foot down on them. But there were some encouraging things. I thought Jason Bean had some strong moments in this game, but they're just not a well-rounded enough team to keep themselves against a really strong Coastal Carolina team. But I thought there was encouraging things in this game. They play Duke next week. We'll see what happens there. All right, that will do it for all the games. Also, new member BYU did a great job in their game. But we'll dive deeper into some of these results as we go forward, guys. Tomorrow's episode, going to be with Jake Hatch from Locked On Cougars. It's BYU. He's awesome. We're going to talk about BYU moving to the Big 12, what it means. The fans excited, kind of all things BYU to the Big 12. So that's coming up here. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You can follow me at JoshNeighbors_. Once again, follow us on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube as well. Subscribe. Subscribers are really important, guys, and thumbs up are really important too. Trying to build this channel as we go throughout the season. One more note, 3-3 on the picks this week that you found on Twitter at LOBig12. Thanks to the bonus pick I gave. Fan requested a BYU pick. It's a BYU +7 against Utah. So we go 3-3 on the week. The problem is all three of my winners, and I know BYU is going to be in the Big 12, but they aren't there yet. My three winners this week were Arkansas, sadly, +7. I actually thought that Texas would win the game. And same thing for Iowa State, too. I thought those games were going to be pretty close. I had Iowa +4.5. I thought Iowa State would win by like 1 or 2 points. And so Arkansas, Iowa, and BYU were my winners. None of the Big 12 picks I made, the three of them I made, ended up hitting. So there's that. All right, that will do it for today's show. Once again, at LOBig12, at JoshNeighbors_ on Twitter. Until next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.